Hey everyone, welcome back to Phantom Whispers. Tonight, we're traveling to Thailand, where one of the most feared spirits still haunts the night, the Krasue. This isn't just folklore. People still hang thorny branches outside their homes, still lock their doors before sunset, still whisper warnings to those who work the graveyard shift. What happened to a security guard in a Bangkok apartment complex 5 years ago has no rational explanation. After I tell you these three stories, I'll explain the ancient belief that might make sense of it all. So stay with me until the end. Let's call him Somchai. He was 28, a night security guard at a mid-rise apartment building in the Lat Phra district of Bangkok. Nothing fancy, just 8 floors of aging concrete, flickering hallway lights, and the constant hum of air conditioning units. Somchai had worked there for 3 years. He knew every corner, every shadow, every sound the building made as it settled in the night. The Krasue, for those unfamiliar, is one of Thailand's most terrifying spirits. According to folklore, it's the floating head of a woman, trailing her internal organs beneath her, stomach, intestines, liver, all glowing faintly in the darkness. The legend says she was cursed, either through black magic or for committing terrible sins in life. By day, she appears normal, her head reattached to her body, but at night, her head detaches and hunts for blood, raw meat, or filth to consume. She cannot pass through thorny branches, which is why you'll see them hung around homes in rural areas. The old people say, if you see her, you must stay silent and still. Any sudden movement, any sound, and she'll know you've seen her. Somchai had heard the stories growing up in his village near Surin, but Bangkok was modern, rational, filled with concrete and traffic noise. Ghosts belong to the countryside, not here. It started on a Tuesday night in April, during the hottest week of the year. The air was thick, oppressive, the kind that clings to your skin, even in the shade. Somchai was doing his usual rounds, checking the parking garage, the lobby, the stairwells. Everything was quiet. Too quiet, actually. Usually, he'd hear the rumble of the BTS SkyTrain in the distance, the occasional motorbike passing by. But tonight, the city felt muted, as if someone had turned down the volume. Around 2 a.m., he was sitting at his desk in the lobby when he heard it, a wet, dragging sound, like something heavy and slick being pulled across the floor. It came from above, maybe the 3rd or 4th floor. He checked the CCTV monitors. Nothing. Just empty hallways, fluorescent lights buzzing. He told himself it was pipes. Old buildings made strange noises. But then he smelled it. Faint at first, then stronger. Copper and rot. The smell of something organic. Something that shouldn't be inside. His stomach turned. He stood up, grabbed his flashlight, and walked to the stairwell. The smell was coming from up there. He climbed slowly, each step echoing in the concrete shaft. The smell grew stronger. 4th floor. He pushed open the door. The hallway was empty, but the smell was overwhelming now. Thick, sweet decay mixed with something metallic. And there, on the floor, was a trail. Dark, wet, glistening under the hallway lights. It led down the corridor, past apartment doors, toward the far end where the utility room was. Somchai's hands were shaking. He followed the trail. The wet, dragging sound started again, closer now. It was coming from inside the utility room. He reached for the door handle. It was cold, too cold for April in Bangkok. He opened it slowly. The room was dark except for a single bulb swinging slightly, casting moving shadows. And there, in the corner, he saw it, a shape, low to the ground. Something round, something trailing long, glistening strands that pulsed faintly in the dim light. It turned toward him. A woman's face, beautiful, almost serene, but her eyes were black, empty, hungry, and below her neck, nothing but organs, intestines coiled and dripping, a stomach distended and swollen, all hanging in the air as if suspended by invisible threads. The Krasue. Somchai couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The folklore rushed back to him. Stay still, stay silent. The Krasue hovered there, inches above the ground, her organs swaying slightly. She was feeding on something in the corner, a dead rat, its body torn open. She made a soft, wet sound, like sucking marrow from bone. Then she looked at him fully. Her lips pulled back, revealing teeth stained dark. She knew he'd seen her. Somchai did the only thing he could think of. He slowly backed out of the room, never breaking eye contact, moving inch by inch. His hand found the door frame. He stepped into the hallway. The Krasue didn't follow. Not yet. He ran. Down the stairs, through the lobby, out into the street. He didn't stop until he reached a 7-Eleven, 2 blocks away, gasping under the fluorescent lights, surrounded by people buying instant noodles and cigarettes. Normal people. Living people. He never went back to that building. He quit the next day. Didn't even collect his final paycheck. The apartment management hired someone new. That guard lasted 3 weeks before he quit too, claiming he'd seen something in the utility room, something that shouldn't exist. The building still stands. Tenants come and go. But if you ask the older residents, the ones who've lived there for years, they'll tell you to never go to the 4th floor after midnight. And if you smell something rotting, something sweet and metallic, close your door and don't look out until sunrise. While that happened in Bangkok's urban sprawl, our next story takes us north to Chiang Mai, where an old hospital became the site of something far more disturbing. And this time, there were witnesses, multiple witnesses. All of them saw the same thing. This story comes from 2018, from a hospital in Chiang Mai that has since been demolished. The building was over 60 years old, built during a time when medical practices were different, when death was more common, more visible. The nurses who worked there had their own rituals, small offerings left in certain rooms, prayers whispered before night shifts. They knew the hospital was haunted. They just didn't know by what. Let's call her Nid. She was a nurse in her early 30s, working the night shift in the geriatric ward on the 2nd floor. The ward was always understaffed at night. Just 2 nurses for 20 patients, most of them elderly, most of them dying slowly from age and illness. The hospital was scheduled for demolition in 3 months. Everyone knew it. The building was falling apart. Cracked walls, flickering lights, a pervasive smell of disinfectant that couldn't quite mask the odor of decay. Nid had worked there for 5 years. She'd seen patients die, seen families weep, seen the quiet resignation of the elderly as they waited for the end. But she'd never seen what she saw that night in November. It was around 3 a.m. The ward was quiet, except for the rhythmic beeping of monitors and the occasional cough from a patient. Nid was doing her rounds, checking vitals, adjusting IV drips. She reached the room at the end of the hall, room 217. Inside was an old woman, Mrs. Pranee, 92 years old, bedridden, barely conscious. Her family hadn't visited in weeks. She was alone, waiting to die. Nid checked her pulse, weak but steady. She adjusted the blanket and turned to leave. That's when she heard the tapping, soft, rhythmic, coming from the window. She looked. The window was closed, the curtain drawn, but the tapping continued. Tap, 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 like fingernails on glass. She pulled back the curtain. Nothing. Just the dark courtyard below, overgrown with weeds and banana trees. The hospital backed onto an old neighborhood, separated by a crumbling wall. Nid let the curtain fall and left the room. But as she walked down the hallway, she heard it again. The tapping, this time from the window in the hallway. She stopped. The tapping grew louder, more insistent. And then she smelled it. That smell. Copper and rot. The smell of something dead. She turned slowly. The hallway window was at the far end, near the stairwell. And there, outside the glass, hovering at eye level, was a face. A woman's face. Beautiful, pale, framed by long black hair. But her eyes were wrong. Too dark, too empty. And below her face, hanging in the air, were organs. Glistening, pulsing organs, trailing down like roots. The Krasue. Nid's breath caught in her throat. The Krasue pressed closer to the glass, her face inches away, her breath fogging the window. Her lips moved, forming words Nid couldn't hear. And then she smiled. A slow, terrible smile. Nid ran. She burst into the nurse's station, gasping, trying to explain. Her colleague, an older nurse named Porn, grabbed her shoulders. "Did you see her?" Porn whispered. "The floating head?" Nid nodded, trembling. Porn's face went pale. "She's been here before," Porn said quietly. 3 years ago, a patient died the night after she appeared. The old people say the Krasue feeds on the dying, on those too weak to resist. We need to protect Mrs. Praney. They went back to room 217 together. Mrs. Praney was still unconscious, her breathing shallow. Porn pulled out a small bundle from her bag, thorny branches from a lime tree, wrapped in red cloth. She hung them on the window frame, whispering a prayer. "This'll keep her out," Porn said. "The Krasue can't pass through thorns." They stayed in the room, watching the window. Minutes passed, then hours. The tapping never came back, but the smell lingered, faint and sickly, until dawn. Mrs. Praney died 3 days later, peacefully in her sleep. The nurses said prayers, burned incense, made offerings. The Krasue never returned to that room, but other nurses reported seeing her after that, always near the geriatric ward, always outside windows where the dying lay. The hospital was demolished in February 2019. The land was cleared, the building reduced to rubble. But locals say the Krasue still haunts the area, drifting through the old neighborhood at night, searching for the weak, the dying, the vulnerable. While those encounters happened in cities, the Krasue legend is oldest and strongest in the rural villages of Thailand. And nowhere is the fear more real than in Isan, the northeastern region, where this final story takes place. It's a story the villagers don't like to talk about because it ended in a way no one expected. This happened in a small village near Udon Thani, deep in the Isan countryside. The village had no name on any map, just a cluster of wooden houses on stilts, surrounded by rice fields and forest. Life there moves slowly, dictated by the seasons, by planting and harvest, by the old ways. And the old ways included respect for the spirits, especially the Krasue. Let's call him Ding. He was 24, a university student from Bangkok who'd come to the village to do research for his thesis on rural folklore. He was staying with a distant uncle, a rice farmer, who'd agreed to let him stay for 2 weeks. Dang was skeptical of the stories. He saw them as quaint superstitions, relics of a pre-modern worldview. He didn't believe in ghosts. The village elder, a woman in her 70s named Yai Boon, warned him on his first day. "Don't go into the forest after dark," she said, her voice hoarse and serious. "And if you see a light floating between the trees, don't follow it. That's the Krasue. She hunts at night." Dang smiled politely and thanked her. He didn't take her seriously. The Krasue, Yaibun explained, had haunted the village for generations. She was once a woman from the village, cursed by a jealous rival who practiced black magic. The curse transformed her into the Krasue. By day, she appeared normal, living among them. But at night, her head detached, and she hunted. The villagers knew who she was. They left offerings outside her house, raw meat, fish, rice, to appease her, to keep her from attacking. As long as she was fed, she left them alone. Deng recorded the interview, took notes, and filed it away as folklore. Interesting, but not real. On his 5th night in the village, he decided to test the story. He wanted to see if there was any truth to it, any basis in reality. He waited until midnight, then slipped out of his uncle's house and walked toward the forest. The moon was full, casting silver light across the rice fields. The air was warm, thick with the sound of crickets and frogs. He walked slowly, his phone recording video, his flashlight off. He wanted to see what the villagers saw. He reached the edge of the forest. The trees were dense, their branches forming a canopy that blocked the moonlight. It was darker here, cooler. He stepped inside. The sounds of the night changed. No more crickets, no more frogs. Just silence, heavy, oppressive silence. Then he saw it, a light, faint, greenish, floating about 10 feet off the ground. It moved slowly, weaving between the trees, pulsing gently, like a heartbeat. Dang's rational mind told him it was bioluminescent fungi, or swamp gas, something explainable. But his instincts screamed at him to run. He didn't run, he followed it. The light moved deeper into the forest. Dang followed, his phone camera recording, his heart pounding. The light stopped. It hovered in a small clearing, illuminating the ground below. And there, in the dirt, were bones, animal bones, picked clean, scattered in a rough circle. The light pulsed brighter, and then it turned toward him. It wasn't a light. It was a face, a woman's face, glowing faintly, her features beautiful but wrong, too pale, too smooth, like porcelain. And below her face, trailing down, were organs, intestines coiled and glistening, a stomach distended and pulsing, a liver dark and slick. The Krasue. She moved toward him, slowly, deliberately. Her organs swayed beneath her, brushing the ground, leaving wet trails in the dirt. Her eyes locked onto his. Empty, hungry. Dang ran. He crashed through the underbrush, branches tearing at his clothes, his phone dropping somewhere in the darkness. He could hear her behind him, the wet, dragging sound, the soft hiss of her breath. He ran until his lungs burned, until he burst out of the forest and into the rice fields. He didn't stop until he reached his uncle's house, slamming the door behind him, gasping for air. His uncle found him on the floor, shaking. "You went into the forest," his uncle said quietly. It wasn't a question. Dang nodded. His uncle shook his head. "You've been seen She knows your face now. The next morning, Dang packed his things and left the village. He never finished his thesis. He never spoke about what he saw, but 3 months later, he started having nightmares. The same dream every night. The Krasue hovering outside his apartment window in Bangkok, her face pressed against the glass, her organs trailing down the side of the building. He moved apartments. The dreams continued. He moved cities. The dreams followed. The last anyone heard, Deng had left Thailand entirely, moving to Singapore, then Malaysia. But friends say he still wakes up screaming, still sees her face in the dark. The village elder's warning had been clear. Don't go into the forest. Don't follow the light. And above all, don't let the Krasue see your face. Because once she knows you, she never forgets. So there you have it. 3 encounters with the Krasue, from the heart of Bangkok to the remote villages of Isan. Somchai escaped, but never returned. Nid and her colleague protected their patient with ancient wisdom. And Dang learned too late that some warnings should be taken seriously. The Krasue remains one of Thailand's most enduring legends. Whether you believe she's real or simply a cautionary tale about respecting the old ways, one thing is certain. The fear is real. People still hang thorny branches. They still make offerings. They still lock their doors after dark. What do you think happened in these stories? Was it really the Krasue, or could there be rational explanations? Hallucinations, stress, coincidence? And if you were in their situations, would you have stayed or would you have run? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more true ghost stories from across Asia. Until next time, stay safe and remember, some spirits never forget a face.